Complete. Yeah. Take 3.
Hello and welcome to Zen Talks, where we pause the midday hustle for a brief moment of reflection. I'm your host, Zen, and today as we take a pause from the busyness of our day, I invite you to join me for a quick reset. Let's slow down, take a deep breath, and explore the depths of personal growth and well-being. As I sip on my cup of peach green tea, I want to talk about something that we've all experienced at one time or another: uncertainty. Now, for those of you at home or work, grab your favorite pick-me-up, whether it's water, coffee, a smoothie, or soda, whatever keeps you going through the day, and let's get into it. How many of us have experienced those moments when life feels shaky, when the plans we've carefully laid out seem to fall apart, or when the future feels like a dense fog, making it impossible for us to see the road ahead? I've been there many times, in fact. It's during those moments that I've found immense comfort in a particular scripture that has carried me through. Jeremiah 29:11. The verse says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." What a powerful promise that is, right? But trusting God's plan, especially when life is uncertain, is often easier said than done. In today's episode, I want to explore this scripture and talk about what it means to truly trust in God's plan for our lives, especially when there's doubt or fear. How do we lean on faith when the future is unknown? How do we surrender to a plan we can't see or understand? So let's talk about the context of this scripture for a moment. Jeremiah 29:11 was written to the Israelites while they were in exile in Babylon. They were far from home, feeling lost, uncertain about what their future held, and wondering if they would ever return to their land. In the midst of their confusion and pain, God sends this message through the prophet Jeremiah, assuring them that he has a plan for their future, a plan to give them hope. Notice that the promise doesn't say there won't be hardships or that the path will be smooth. In fact, the Israelites were told they would be in exile for 70 years before things changed. But even that waiting, God's promise was clear. There's a plan in place, a good plan. So what does this mean for us today? For me, it's a reminder that even when I can't see the full picture, even when my plans fail, God's plan is still at work. And that gives me hope because his plans are always better than mine. Let me share a personal story. There was a season in my life when I was at a crossroads. The plans I had for my career, for my personal life, just weren't coming together the way I envisioned. I was frustrated, and honestly, I questioned if God really had a plan for me. But over time, as I leaned into prayer, trusted his timing, and released my need to control every detail, things started to unfold in ways I never expected. What looked like a setback was actually a setup for something far better than I had planned for myself. Has that ever happened to you? When we're in the middle of uncertainty, it's natural to feel anxious. We want to know what's next and how it's going to work out. But sometimes faith means trusting without having all the answers. It means resting in the knowledge that God's plan is unfolding, even if we can't see the full picture yet. So today I want to give you a few practical ways I found helpful in trusting God's plan, especially when life feels uncertain. The first one is embrace the waiting. None of us like waiting, do we? But often waiting is where God is working behind the scenes. It's in the waiting that we grow, that our faith is strengthened. So instead of seeing the waiting as wasted time, see it as a season of preparation for what's to come. Secondly, release control. This is a big one. We often hold so tightly to our own plans that we leave little room for God to work. But when we release control and trust that God's plans are greater than ours, we open ourselves to possibilities we hadn't imagined. Next, focus on today. We often get overwhelmed because we're so focused on the future. But what if we focused on today instead? Trusting God's plan doesn't mean we have to know every detail about the future. It means trusting him with today, knowing that he's already in our tomorrow, and then look for evidence of his faithfulness. One way to trust in God's plan is to remember His faithfulness in the past. Take time to reflect on moments when God came through for you, when things worked out in a way you couldn't have predicted. Those moments are reminders that He's still in control and working all things together for your good. I want to encourage you to ask yourself, where in your life do you need to trust God's plan? Maybe you're in a season of waiting. Maybe things aren't unfolding the way you thought they would. Whatever the case, take heart in Jeremiah 29:11. God's plans are to give you hope and a future, even when it feels unclear right now. Trusting in His plan doesn't mean the road won't have bumps, but it does mean that we don't have to walk it alone. God is with us in the waiting, in the uncertainty, and in the unfolding of His beautiful plan. So before we wrap up, let's take a moment to breathe and reflect. Wherever you are, whatever uncertainty you're facing, I want you to know that you can rest in the assurance of God's good plan for your life. Trust that He's working things out for your good, even when you can't see it. Well, thanks for joining me in this moment of reflection. I hope this conversation has reminded you to release control and trust in something greater. If you have thoughts or experiences you'd like to share, you know I'd love to hear them. Feel free to reach out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend, and of course, follow me on Instagram at I am Zenja or Facebook at Zenja Bloomfield. Until next time, stay grounded, stay peaceful, and most importantly, stay Zen.